Last time on The Drawing Dead, we had part 2 of a meetup game the day before the Super Bowl in Kansas City. Got repeatedly owned by a kid from New York, never really got things turned around, and left $400 there. Now, however, we are back at it in St. Louis with home court advantage. Let's see if we can right this ship.
Why'd you bring us here?
Have this world again.
We're back in St. Louis, walking into the casino to get into some poker. And oddly enough, even though the HPT is in town, and I think it's been here for like a week, I haven't played much poker. I think I played a 2-hour session last week, let down $14, and I almost played and decided at the last minute I just didn't feel like it. However, that is not the case for tonight. We're going to get into some 2-5 or maybe even some 5-10 here at Hollywood and see if I can remember how to still play this game. I guess that's assuming I ever really knew. I'm sure it's just personal preference, but I've never been a fan of the non-corner seats at a poker table. The 4-seat isn't as bad as the middling ones because at least you don't feel like you're at a tennis match, but still not my favorite. And it's not even a crappy vlog angle thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a fan of moving my head at all. Who knows? All I know is I try to get out of sitting in them as soon as humanly possible. I've actually only been at the table for a few hands when I find myself on the button with 2 limpers in front of me. Looking down at 7-8 offsuit, I decide to raise it up here to $25. This is probably right in the middle of my raising range from the button. Decent playability with this hand, especially since everyone has more than 100 big blinds, and I have position. Although there were 2 limpers, I only get 1 limper to call. Queen 8-6 with 2 hearts flop is a bit tricky, and the opponent checks it over to me. I flopped a pair, which is hard, but it's not top pair, which is harder, but I do have 1 heart, which helps. I'm fine with betting or checking here since I know absolutely nothing about the opponent. I decide to check it back. The turn 4 clubs does bring in 1 straight draw, and now the opponent leads for $30. Strange sizing. Again, I know nothing about the guy. And yes, he could have a queen or a straight, but most would size up a bit with both those hands. His bet seems a bit small, so I call. River 8 of diamonds pretty much seals it that I have the best hand, even more so when he checks it to me. I actually tank for a bit here, noticing that all the draws have bricked, and since I check back the flop, it should look like I most likely didn't flop a pair, so a larger than normal percentage of my bets here should be ace highs or stone cold bluffs. I decide to bet $110, which sends him into the tank for quite a while. Unfortunately for me, his curiosity doesn't get the best of him and he folds. This is actually the first, last, and only hand I played before switching seats. This was a really interesting hand because I really have no let's just say the games are good. Action folds around to me in middle position, and I open it up to $20 with ace-jack offsuit. Pretty standard. Next to act calls, and the big blind calls. Nothing special so far. The flop comes king, six, deuce. All clubs. So as a pre-flop raiser, I have one over, the nut flush draw, and technically a backdoor straight draw too if you want to throw that in there. However, the flow is broken instantly, as the big blind tanks and then leads out into me for $30. Since I hold the stiff ace and there's a player behind me, I choose to just call. The late position player also calls, and there are still 3 of us heading to the turn. The turn 10 of diamonds isn't necessarily my gin card, but it does crack open that backdoor straight draw I was talking about. Now the big blind checks, and with the world of equity, I take the lead and bet $80. Both players still call. The river 8 of spades is, well, I missed everything. The big blind checks, I check, and the player behind me checks. So now all 3 of us expose our cards.
Check. Check. See winner. There's 6s. There's 10s.
And the big blind wins with 10-9 offsuit. No club.
Shit.
Oh, and remember when I said the games were good? It's not just because the other players are making silly moves. You can go ahead and throw me in that group too.
Fuck me running. Shit.
It is mid-session update time, and you know what I would say? I would say it's not as cold out here as it looks, but that's a damn lie. It's cold. This is going to be one of those quick ones. 2-5 no limit at Hollywood Casino in St. Louis because the 5-10 didn't go. The 5-10 no limit did not go even with the HPT in full swing. It's probably for the best. I sat down in the 2-5 game even though I didn't even know if I'd remember how to play poker. But I did, and I'm doing well, even though not a lot exciting's going on. I did open up King Deuce of Hearts, turned a nut flush, and snapped off a lady that had Queen 10 of Hearts. But unfortunately, that's about as exciting as it's been this session. But the session's not over. In fact, we're only like 2.5, 3 hours into it. But like I said, it's freezing out here. And since it's freezing out here, we're heading back inside. And then, you know, wrap it up at the end. Typical stuff. So, mid-session update over and I head back inside. Rather than wait for the blinds to reach me, I Mississippi straddle from under the gun 2 to $15. Hollywood 2-5, you can straddle for up to 5 times the big blind. 5 players call that straddle. Yes, 5. Action is now on the big blind and she raises it up to $45. Why such a tiny raise? No idea. You'd have to ask her. So now the action is back on me and I look down at King 9 of Hearts and make the call for the extra $30. 3 other players call and we see the flop 5 ways. To say that I hit this flop is an understatement. The flop comes queen of hearts, 10 of hearts, 9 of clubs. The big blind leads out for $175, leaving herself with $170 behind. Next act folds, and there's really no way I'm getting away from this hand, so I make it $500 to go, which covers the big blind and basically will pot commit either two of the players left to act. Their stacks become irrelevant as they quickly fold, and now the big blind is in the tank. The deep tank. For quite a while. Literally minutes. Exasperated as to what to do, she ends up calling and tables ace of diamonds, ace of clubs. The turn queen of diamonds nor the river 3 of diamonds helps me at all, and I end up with a lowly pair of 9s. After winning the pot, I don't think I've ever seen a player rack up so quickly. Her and her winnings were off the table and she was cashing out before the next hand was even finished. Editorial note. I think that this lady handled this perfectly. I've never, ever, ever been a fan of players that win a few pots and then just vault their chips, knowing that they aren't ever going to really put them in play again, but then think they need to sit there for some prescribed amount of time before leaving the table as to not be accused of quote unquote hitting and running. My stance has always been, I'd rather you just leave immediately. Open up the seat to allow someone that is actually going to play the game to have at it. Sitting there pretending to play for the next 30 minutes isn't helping anyone.
Are you done? Are you done?
Sometimes in poker you play well and you get rewarded. Sometimes you play well and you get a stick shoved up your ass. And then there are other times where you just kind of, you'll see. So I open up here with ace 8 of hearts to $20 and get one late position caller. The button, normally I play on the tighter side of the fence, 3 bets to $75. To me, that's a tiny 3 bet. And on paper, I have a decent candidate to attack it. However, to him, that might be a pretty big bet. It's very player dependent, but I decided to pump the brakes here and just call. The remaining villain calls as well, and there are 3 of us. I'm all about the flop of 7-6 queen with 2 hearts, but I stay in flow and check it. It gets checked to the pre-flop 3-better, and now he bets $150. Okay, so you're saying you have an overpair or top set, right? Well, you don't have ace king of hearts because I'm blocking that. And you aren't the type to go all mergy pre-flop and then keep firing with the straight draw. He has about $1,000 behind, so I could definitely check raise here. But if he has what he is repping he has, we'll most likely be playing for stacks with me playing versus the tippy top of his range. Let's not do that. I call, and so does the late position player. The turn pairs my 8 and I check again, as does the guy on my left, and now things can get tricky if the button fires again because the pot is getting bloated. But he doesn't. He checks, which actually surprises me. The river ace of diamonds gives me 2 pair. So unless I'm up against pocket queens that took the weirdest 3-bet pre 2/3 pot flop check turn line, I should be good, right? I mean, realistically, I'm only losing the ace queen, and I doubt the villain even 3-bets that pre-flop. Knowing all of that, what do? I check, for who knows what reason. The river ends up getting checked through, and ultimately I end up scooping this pot with 2 pair. The button shows pocket kings, and the late position player just mucks. Like I said, sometimes you play well, and other times you just kind of don't. As the night wound down, I did give a little bit back, playing a little too loose pre-flop and running flop dead for a little while. What can I say? I'm human. Therefore, I'm going to have random acts of dumbness. It's amazing. It's amazing that I can cash out 2 minutes ago and not remember what I cashed out for. 19 something. In the 2-5 game here at Hollywood for $1,000 and cashed out for 19 something. It's funny, immediately after the mid-session update, I actually got into a pretty big hand. I mean, immediately. Like my first hand back. You guys already heard how I lost a big pot with King 9 of Hearts. No need to talk about it again. Flush draw and a gut shot straight draw, miss everything and lose about $400. Did I capture any of that on video? No. Like I said, I had just gotten back to the table. But even with that, session ended up well. I was actually playing semi-smart. If we ignore the King Deuce of Hearts hand. So with all that being said, and with the time of night that it is, I need to get out of here. So if you like the videos, do the thing with the thumbs up, leave me a comment, and I will probably respond. Probably. And subscribe. And I'll catch you next time, hopefully. If YouTube doesn't give me another strike. Bye. Because it's 7:15 Friday morning, I'm headed to Houston, and I'm already late.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree.
You guys remember Bree from Chicago? So we gotta check into hotels, we gotta round up rain delay, gotta grab some food, and we gotta get shit done.
Hope they won't shoot me down soon.
You're getting massaged, I'm getting punished.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.
Back in St. Louis, walking into the casino, and we're gonna get into back in St. Louis. How is it possible that I just walked out, I just cashed out, and I can never remember what I cashed out for? 19 something? 1940 something?